Marcellus Wiley. Welcome to the Victory Degree podcast, my man.
Oh man, look, I feel victorious right now. This is great. Lovely opportunity right now to chop it up with you, big dog. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, living life. I'm excited for this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple labels for you. Defensive end, sports broadcaster, father, and CEO. Which one of those hit home for you? Which one of those do you think had the biggest impact on your life?
Oh, easily father. When you have a child and you realize you just made another version of yourself, and hopefully a better version than you are, that blank canvas that is you, but will be reimagined and redefined in a better existence than yours. Oh man, there's no greater love in this world. I love my wife dearly. I love myself, but damn it, I love my itty bitties, my kids, my 4 kids. They got me. So it's just amazing when you put something in front of you and you look at life through their lens, through their eyes. And that's what happened when I had my first child all the way through the 4th. It's the greatest love you could have and experience.
And I think your first one, Morocco, I think she had a particular impact on you and your life. So you published the book Never Shut Up, which I think I read in a span of 8 hours straight. Yeah. I just couldn't put it down, man. I couldn't put it down.
Appreciate it, man.
But I like it because you were so real in that book, and you talk about your experience all the way from, growing up in South Central LA, which many people don't have an appreciation for what that was really like back then and still is today. And so yeah, I figured a good place for us to start as we go through this journey of your life is growing up in South Central LA and getting beat up by a couple of guys from the Crips. What was that experience like, and what did that teach you about life?
What did Mr. T say in Rocky? One word for you, Balboa: pain. It felt like pain. More than physical pain, like emotional pain. Even like circumstantial pain, if that's even a phrase. It's just the fact that, damn, it hurts to just be around here, like I'm 9 years old, whatever I was at the time, and I can't even just go home. I can't just go straight home. So I was a kid that I was born into a mindset that everyone can coexist. We all can get along. Even if you're doing something I don't want to do, I don't care enough to disturb you from doing it, as long as you don't hurt anybody, and vice versa. And then when I got waking up from that mindset is when you have experiences like this. You're getting beat up and bullied by some Crips over some silly stuff. And what I realized from that point on is that I'm going to have to use a lot of my energy just to navigate around the BS. And I didn't want to sign up for that, but I signed up for that and reminded myself I can't let that rob me of what I have to do, my responsibilities, my goals, my ambitions, my dreams. So I had to be greater than my greatest excuse. And my greatest excuse was I'm from the hood. My greatest excuse was I'm on welfare. My greatest excuse was people stereotype me. And I could use all those things, blah, blah, blah. And then something inside me said, and if you sing those songs, you're going to be singing them right here 30, 40, 50 years later. Or you could change that tune. So I added all those things up like most people do, but I didn't stop there. I said, okay, now bundle that up. That's the BS I got to deal with. Now let me get to me. So I try to use everything in my world for something that's better, not bitterness. So I didn't want to get bitter from that. I wanted to get better from it. And I try to navigate around it so I didn't have to deal with it too much.
So, you talk about in the book growing up on food stamps, obviously difficult circumstances, being embarrassed to go to the grocery store with your friends because you're scared that they might see that you're using food stamps to buy, groceries. But seemingly through all of that, you found a way, man, and you found a way to persevere and come out on the right end. And so that mindset of yours, that perseverance that you had, do you think that was something God-given ability, or was it something that was instilled onto you by maybe your parents or other role models that you had at the time?
Yeah, I think it was a contribution from all. I think God gave me something. I think it was activated by my family through their success and failures. And I think also just my conditions had an effect on me as well. you got to think about it in these terms. Like, everyone has problems. And I used to think about it in those terms, like, man, I'm not the only one. But who has solutions? Now, that's when the line gets shorter. It's a long line of problems. Everybody had an issue. Everybody was complaining. Everybody had right to complain. I know how it felt. But I was like, who got an answer, though? God dang, where that line at? And that's what I was always on a quest to find. Because you could sit there. I played football since I was age 7. I ran track at the age of 7. I was on the basketball team at the age of 7. I played golf when I was 5. And look, you're a youngster and you're trying to figure this world out, but not think too deep about it because you're just not that deep. But I was just like, man, a lot of people just mad or upset or angry or complain. And then I was like, how many people really just smiling and happy and got answers and not really stressed out? And I knew that that was a shorter line and that was a smaller population than the other. And then I just start literally focusing on who was like that. So that could be my school teacher. That could be a friend at school. That could be our guidance counselor. Whoever it was that I felt didn't just always tell me the issue, but try to solve it, I gravitated towards them. And they helped me start to have that mindset, have that engine, and then it started to snowball. So like anything, man, success begets success. So once I became successful at solving my own little itty bitty problem, I'll give you an example. My first problem was, damn it, I love the Dukes of Hazzard. Damn it, I love Different Strokes. Damn it, I love Transformers. So much that I would miss my homework. And I wouldn't even do my homework sometimes, or I'll push it off because I got to watch those shows. And literally, I figured out, this is how you do your homework and watch those shows. Do it before. Force yourself. The only way you get to watch the shows, did you finish your homework? And that little thing, I mean, you're 9 years old, so it's not much. But that little thing was me solving my own problem instead of saying, oh, well, I couldn't get to it because I was tired, or, oh, well, it was late, or, oh, well, I was watching my shows. And then, I just took all the excuses out the door, and then stuff started to happen for me in a good way.
That's a lesson to all the kids listening to this right now. Do your homework, find a way, and you can play with your Transformers. That's a great lesson, man. So you talk about, people who were role models in your life and who gave you that confidence to tackle problems. I would say that your grandmother was one of those people, and very influential in your life. She asked you one time to take out a piece of paper and to write down 3 words that describe you. Do you remember what you wrote down?
Yeah, I do. This is around the time I was getting bullied. I wasn't supposed to tell my grandma, not just because, you're not supposed to be a snitch or a tattletale. It was just because my grandmother had 6 kids, including my mother, obviously, 3 uncles, 4 uncles, and they were in the streets. So basically, I lived in a world and in a family where if I had a problem, then the people I had a problem with had a problem, and I didn't want to detonate that. I didn't want to use that as a weapon. Like, I could get y'all messed up because my uncles are in the streets. But I ended up breaking down and telling my grandmother just for more wisdom. And, of course, she obliged. She told me to get a piece of paper out. She said, I want you to write down your name. So at the top of the paper, I wrote down my name, Marcellus Wiley. And then she said, okay, I want you to write down 3 things that you are. I was like, what, Grandma? I'm over here getting beat up by some 60s, some Crips, and you over here talking about writing, penmanship, and handwriting, right? So then the first thing I write down was, I said, I am smart. She said, why do you think you're smart? And I was like, because I get A's and B's in all my classes, and I like school. All right, you're smart. Smart. Then she said, what else? I said, athletic. And she was like, why do you think you're athletic? And I was like, because I could beat everybody running, Grandma. Everybody, even their brothers and even their daddies. I could beat everybody running. She was like, all right, I'm good in football. She said, all right, you're smart and athletic. And then she said, what's the last thing? And I kind of struggled on the last one because I only had 2 weapons. I was like good in class and good on the field. I didn't know nothing else. I was like, damn, what else? Then I looked inside myself. I was like, I'm nice. And she said, why are you nice? And I said, Grandma, because I like everybody at school. Even the people that don't like me. Even those boys that mess with me, I don't hate them. And she said, okay, you put down nice. And then she said, I want you to fold up that piece of paper and remember if anybody calls you by your name, that's at the top of that paper, or that you're smart, athletic, or nice, anything like that, you can listen to them. And if they don't, and they call you a punk, a sissy, a nerd, all the other stuff they used to say back then, faggot, all that, they used to call me all kind of African booty scratch, whatever it was. She said, don't you pay them no mind. It's all right. And literally, when I put that paper under my bed, I swear, my next look was a railroad track. And it wasn't straight. It was windy because I had to navigate around stuff, but I knew where I was going. So every time someone would talk to me, I would just take kind of the summation of what they were saying, the spirit of it. Were they talking to me in those flattering ways? Were they talking to me like I was smart, athletic, nice? Or they were trying to hurt me, clown me, whatever it may be. And literally, I would disregard them. So that's how it happened. Grandma dropped some jewels on me with a piece of paper.
And you talk about you knew where you wanted to go. At what point in time were you like, listen, I think football is the way out, not only for myself, but for my family as well? What age were you like, all right, I'm going to, start taking this a little more seriously?
I didn't flip a switch in terms of seriousness. Like when I played, I'm like, I'm gonna be here. Let's go. You know what I mean? I'm always 100%. It's funny. People used to always say that about me, especially if you saw me run track. No matter what the race, I'm taking off. We'll figure it out later, right? You know what I mean? I don't care how long it is. I'm just running till I can't run anymore. That doesn't mean I always won. I had a lot of success, but I'm always gonna go 100%. So for football, I was going 100%, Pop Warner youth level, really, really good. And then I get to high school. And in high school, I got robbed of my health. I had Oscar slaughters. My knees were all messed up. I'm in the 9th grade, icing my knees. I go from being like a stud running back. I'm talking about getting recruited to go to high schools, all this. Go from that guy to an offensive lineman. Yep. My first year, 9th grade, I was on the Bees team, and they had me playing a little O-line. I was like, what the hell? They was like, like you can run too, but you could also, you're big and you can block. And I was like, what? I ain't that big. Am I that slow? So it was kind of insulting, and it was a good thing. It was a blessing in disguise, because getting robbed of my physical gifts that I had to that point, think about it, I'm a national champion in track running, and then I'm playing O-line. It makes no sense, but that's what happened when I got hurt. So I started looking at the world differently. The perspective changed. So, a lot of cats in the hood, especially, we think about ball like, only way we gonna make it out is playing ball or entertaining, right? And I'm thinking the same like everybody else. But then when I got hurt, I was like, oh, ball is fickle. Ball may not work. That may not be the way out. And that's what introduced me to looking at things differently and made me open to a Columbia University, et cetera. Because if I was still balling out of control like I was before, it wasn't that I wasn't great in school or doing well in class. It was I wouldn't have thought about my academics the same. So it was a blessing in disguise. I'm glad it happened, even though it was hell when it was happening.
I think a pivotal moment, from the book in your high school football career was a guy whose number was 27, and up to that point, you were killing it on the football field. I think you were still running back at that moment in time, and you were scoring almost every play, doing whatever you want. But then number 27 came along, man, and something changed. So, what did 27 teach you about life?
Man, so that was like my 4th year of playing. We had not lost a single game in our 4th year, and we're in the championship. So first year, championship, undefeated. 2nd year, 3rd year. 4th year, we're undefeated again. We're in the championship game. We're playing the North Orange County Piranhas. I'll never forget it. And they had some ugly-ass uniforms. I was like, what the? We gonna smoke them. Look at that uniforms. They whack. And, they had a smaller team than us. They had like 3 brothers on their team. So, back in those days especially, I'm in Inglewood, we all black. They got all white dudes and a couple Mexican and 2-3 brothers. I was like, we gonna get them. Right now, I'm just running all the stereotypes, right? And then all of a sudden, immediately, you were like, whoever 27 is, he a man. And I noticed him because nobody would block him. He was making every tackle on me. Every time I get tackled, I would juke the whole team. And then here comes 27. Come on. I wasn't juking him, right? So the game goes on. They're up 6-0. And there's like 2 plays left. And one play, we're like on our goal line, have to go 90 some yards. And the first play, they give me the ball and I break it for like 20 or 30. And then we got one play left and time is running out. We ain't even got a timeout. You can see, I got the video somewhere. It's hilarious. And this entire year, my entire career, I've never caught a pass. Because this is back in the 80s. We ain't throw the ball. We ran student body right. We ran pitch left, pitch right, et cetera. And coach said, line up there and throw Wiley the ball. I was like, what the hell kind of play is this? And literally you can see a said, hey, and he throws it to me. And here come 27. And I juke him. And literally in my head, I'm thinking, I got 27 out the way. It's wrap. We about to win this game. I'm going to score on the last play of the game. And I juke like 9 other dudes. And 27 was 27. He got back up off the ground. You can see it on video. And come back. And all that weaving and stuff I'm doing, he finally came back. And then, and everybody in the crowd was like, oh, they lost. And that was number 27. What it taught me was a lot of things. One, you're never going to go through this thing unscathed. You're never going to be the baddest all the time. Like, you know what I mean? So many life lessons. And 2, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, I thought looking at that team and then looking at them, and I was just like, oh, we got that. Even though we played hard and we played well, people were scared of 27, and it was that fast. And I think the greatest lesson was no matter what they think of you, go there, show up, show out, and they'll think different about you. We changed our tune quick about 27. Soon as we saw him out there running around laying that hat.
So that's interesting because now we get to your years at Columbia, and you talked about wanting to focus on academics because you didn't know that, if ball was going to be the answer. And so you decided to go to Columbia, which, I mean, at the time, and still I'd argue to this day, going to an Ivy League, if you have NFL aspirations, probably not the best move. So what besides academics, what was your thought process about choosing Columbia? Because I think you got offers from Cal as well. So, I mean, Columbia was a big step.
Yeah, I could have went to I call them football factories, but big D1 schools that play football very well. But I was like, remember, I'm the kid from the hood who now knows there are more talented people than you, even in football. I got robbed already of my gifts, and they were starting to replenish, but still, who took them away? And can they be taken away again? So I'm thinking like, man, I got to run a different equation, different calculation if I'm truly going to make it and protect myself football-wise and in terms of my life aspirations after football. You got to make sure you have a great balance in that. So I had to have the highest safety net ever. And my high safety net was simple as, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the school with the highest academic reputation and see if I can make it to the NFL. Simple as that. So, you know how everybody always like going to Alabama, going to Georgia, going to play Michigan, you know what I'm saying? And they're only going there because they're top schools in terms of the BCS ranking, right? Oh, they're number 1 AP, number 4 AP. And I said, how about I use number 1 or number 4, not from the AP necessarily, but from the U.S. News and World Report. I was like, who's reading that, right? And I was like, damn, it's a lot of successful people, you know, from the Forbes list, former presidents, all went Ivy League. And I just was like, if you can go to the NFL from small schools, why can't I go from an Ivy League school? And everybody was like, because you just can't. And I was like, that's not a good enough answer. I was like, Walter Payton went to a small school. Jerry Rice went to a small school. Why can't I go to a small school and make it? You ain't Walter Payton. You ain't Jerry Rice. I was like, I ain't say that. I said, is the opportunity present? And then what I did say is, but nobody's going to sneeze at me getting a degree from this school. And so long story short, I went to all my friends and told them where I was going. One of my friends, crazy as hell, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about going to Columbia. He said, Columbia? You're going to school in South America? I was like, oh, you won't be my guidance counselor, not you. And so I went and told everybody where I was going to school, where I was thinking about, and all my peers, all my friends kept saying all the same stuff. Oh, I can't wait till you go to UCLA or whatever it may be. Yeah, we're going to be up in them dorms. We're going to be up there kicking. Oh, we can't wait for you to play in the Rose Bowl stuff. And then I say Columbia, and they lose their energy. And then I would go to the guidance counselors, my teachers, principal, dean, etc., and I would tell them the same choices. And they were all happy for me going to the football factories. But when I would say Columbia, they lose their mind. So I was like, trust the elders in this situation. Go to Columbia.
And so you're at Columbia now, and you bring up a couple stories from your time there, but there was one in particular that I thought was really interesting, which was you had gotten a couple of noise complaints about playing your rap music a little too loud late at night. And you had a counselor at the time who you kind of viewed as a mentor, someone that you could go to, someone you trusted to give you advice. And she told you something and kind of changed your perspective on what was happening and why you might have been getting the noise complaints. So I thought it was an interesting story. If you don't mind sharing kind of how that all transpired and again, what you took away from that and still applied to this day.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a little foggy of what the lesson was other than turn your damn music down. But the first thing was, look, it was stereotypical what I was doing. Like everybody, we're all living up to some real stereotypes out there. Let's just be real. To what degree? Let's talk. But I got on college. I'm a freshman. I walked past this desk, this kiosk, and it's MBNA Bank. And they're giving out credit cards, and you got $500. I got to do a sign right here. I'm like, duh, $500. I don't have $500. Now I do. First thing I do is buy a stereo system, 3-disc changer, and they used to spin. I was hype, had glowing lights on it. I bought that thing, put it in my room, and cranked it. Never turned it down. Thought I was doing it during normal hours. People were walking up and down. People were playing their own music as well. Didn't think much of it. All of a sudden, I had one person knock on the door. Hey, Marcellus, how you doing? Can you turn the music down? They squint, their shoulders all tight. I'm like, hey, turn the music down just a little bit, trying to study. Oh, no problem. Sorry. Turn it down. No one else came to my room to tell me to turn it down. Next person complained about my music was my RA telling me I had to go see the dean. I was like, why? They're like, because you have noise complaints. 107 noise complaints. I was like, nah. I said, only one dude told me to turn it down. And that turned into 107. So long story short, what I learned from that was interesting. I was like, oh, me, big old black dude from Compton, may, playing all this Dr. Dre and Snoop at the time, may just be leaning into a stereotype that may make it easier for them to complain and not complain to me out of fear. So I said, before I just make this lazy assumption that everybody up in here has microaggressions or discriminating or racist or something silly, I was like, let me just change the music and not the volume. So this is the sociologist in me. I was like, I'm gonna change the music, not even the volume. I'm gonna play something different. So I end up playing Whitney Houston Bodyguard soundtrack that came out. I love that. So I end up playing the Bodyguard soundtrack, and I ain't getting any noise complaints. It's like, maybe it's just a rap thing, because rap has been through it. People who don't know rap all the way through from beginning to now, rap's 50 years old now. But long story short, rap back then wasn't always accepted as much as it is right now. So had to go through it. And since I went through it, that little experiment showed me that people look at you differently, because if they like it, then it's okay, even though it may be disturbing. But if they don't like it, even if it ain't disturbing, they just don't like it.
Yeah, and I think again, I thought it was an interesting story. And you talk about going to Columbia, and you mentioned in your book this idea of four corners. And we'll get to it a little bit later because I think it's fascinating. But part of it is, you mentioned going to Columbia as it taught you how to relate to other people. And later, when you started your broadcasting, journey as a sports broadcaster, reporter, it taught you how to interact with people at ESPN. Kind of come down to their level is a wrong way of looking at it, but relate to them on a different level, right? So being able to talk to them, that maybe other athletes just didn't have that experience at the college that they went to, or the football career that they had. So What did Columbia teach you? I mean, besides this whole, the rap story, what did it teach you about relating to other people and how to interact with others?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways up to the top of the mountain. I think if I had to say it in short, it's just that. Like, imagine an environment where when I'm growing up, everybody's talking about ball, and everyone looks at me as a baller, and they were so competitive and so excited, like everything, every conversation. How many touchdowns, how many plays you make, how many interceptions. It was just so many conversations like that. And that was the culture. Now I get to Columbia and the culture shifts. And people are as competitive as they were about football. They're competitive about classwork. They're competitive about their studies. I saw cats taking a nap before class just to have energy to battle the professor. I was like, I saw cats wearing 3-piece suits going to class just to be ready to present their case to the professors. And I was like, man, these cats out here acting like this is the NFL of the brains. And it was to them. Like, they were so excited, so pumped up to just show up and then talk it, where I wasn't used to that. Even though I was around a lot of smart kids growing up, it wasn't that community, it wasn't that spirit, it wasn't that culture. So watching that made me say, man, these cats are all in. And once I learned that, then I had all the weapons I needed, because I knew how to play ball. I knew how to play the game within the game, but I also learned to appreciate that all these other kids came to this school with the mindset that they're going to be successful without using their body, without using anything about ball. Forget that. That's cute. So I was like, damn. And then you start to hear and know real levels of affluence greater than football players, greater than athletes, like owners. You start hearing about owners, then you start talking to the trustees, then you start talking to these second, third generation wealthy kids, and then billionaires. And you're like, what? And you're sitting there like, man, the whole world was telling me the best I could be was this guy. And now I could realize I could be the guy who pays that guy. I could be the guy that is employing that guy. I could be the guy that runs this whole network, right? And that's just powerful. Even if you don't activate it, even though you don't always accomplish that, it's just that power already seated in you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's skip to the draft combine. By the way, after the draft combine, I thought it was super funny. You would go to your library and check the computer and see, if your draft projection changed. Am I a 7th round pick? Am I a 5th round pick? Am I going in the 2nd round? Where am I going? But arguably the funniest part in your entire book was this beauty pageant that I had never heard about, that happens at the draft combine, where they put you like in a Speedo or something, and you have to like walk up and down this run. Can you explain what that was?
Yeah, I'm not sure right now with all this PC stuff going around if they still do this, but when I was going to the combines 1997, they did it. And what it was is you had to walk across the stage. It was a beauty pageant. And all of the scouts were out there in the crowd, and they just wanted to see your body type. So there is something to it. Like, I know that there were times that people tried to make it more than it was. But look, I coach. Like I told you, we have our championship game in basketball tonight, our little 8-year-olds. But I don't care who the kid is. I could be wrong, but I'm usually right. Looking at a kid, I can look at his butt. I can look at the angle. It's real stuff. I can look at his calves. I can look at his hamstrings. I can look at his shins, his ankles, and I can tell you if the kid already got some talent or not. Like, just blind taste test. Just like, no, that guy. No, not him. And that's what they're doing. So there was a thing that obviously they like guys with high butts. I'm just telling you how it goes. High butts, because that means your butt is your strongest muscle. If he got a high butt, he's probably explosive, and he could be very powerful, very athletic. That's what they were looking for, blah, blah, blah. And if you worked out, did you have a dad bod? Are you Patrick Mahomes or not? Like, all this funny stuff, right? So I knew I was yoked the hell up. Like, I was in some sick shape, right? That's what you got to do if you're going from Columbia, because you can't trust your game film, so you got to look fresh, right? So I looked insane, like to the point where every player from every other big school was like, damn, Wiley, what y'all doing at Columbia? I was like, man, this is all I can do. What you going to put on my game film, see me go against Harvard and Yale, and, oh, yeah, he's a stud, right? So you just got to see me coming. So I remember walking across, and most guys wore shorts, and that's it. You seen the Tom Brady photo, right? Remember that? Where Tom Brady and his chest going in and not out, right? So I had to do that, and I had to walk across, but I walked across in Speedos because I wanted them to see it all. I was like, dog, I am yoked. And them boys were laughing at me, but I swear after that, I went from like 7th round to 2nd round, just off of like, damn, look at his butt. So that's how the game was back then. I'm not sure if it's that way now.
I was gonna say, I don't think Tom Brady was probably winning any awards at that beauty pageant with the way that he was looking.
And now they know how stupid and silly it may have been because the GOAT, greatest player of all time, didn't even pass that beauty test. Didn't even pass that smell test.
So now you go back to the computer. You're like, oh man, I'm projected to go in the 2nd round. You're getting excited. Yeah, you're like, all right, here we go. We're making it to the NFL. And you're back in South Central LA with your family in your home. There's a CNN crew that comes in, recording your reaction to the draft. The draft starts. You're listening for the syllables. Anything that sounds like an M, you're like, oh, could be me. I don't know. And so you're sitting there. 2nd round comes along. I think pick 52, and I think you might have you either fell asleep or maybe weren't paying attention. But your dad screams, "All right." And he kept saying, all right. And then you realized, I'm going to Buffalo. What was like your initial reaction?
Yeah, I was nodding off. I think I was actually asleep at that time. But I have that issue. My coaches found that out later. At halftime, they'd be like, Wiley. I go to sleep at halftime. I'll just be sitting there like this. I have like a attention deficit syndrome or something crazy. They were basically saying, dog, you so hyped that if anything is off from that level of energy, you tired. And it used to happen in class all the time. They'd be like, are you okay? Are you bored? I was like, no, I'm not. You just took a lull real quick. So anyway, I'm at the crib. I'm watching, and it takes forever. Like, 1st round took forever back in those days, especially. It's forever. And there were 51 picks before me, and they all had like, I think, a 10-minute clock. Oh, so we're like in hour 7 or 8, and I'm just sitting there like, how many nachos can I eat? How many fake smiles can I give? How many handshakes can you do? Then it's finally just like, man. And so I'm sitting there like this, and they're like, all right. And then that's my dad. My dad is a man of few words. All right is one of them, though. So then I'm like, oh, man. I was like, yeah. And I'm looking at the screen, and it's the Buffalo Bills. I was like, and the first thing I thought about was Bruce Smith, because I'm a DN. I was like, they drafted me to play with Bruce Smith? I was like, you imagine you get drafted to play with Michael Jordan and you a guard. You're like, what? I'm a shooting guard playing with Michael Jordan. Let's go. So that's how I felt. And then I was like, oh, and the 4 Super Bowls they were in, oh, and Marv Levy. And then my phone is ringing, and it's like, hey, how you doing, Marcellus? This big, deep voice. I didn't know this voice. I was like, hey, how you doing? Nice meeting you. John Butler, general manager of the Buffalo Bills. Oh, nice meeting you, John. All right. He said, you want to talk to your head coach? I said, yes. Now, in the time he's handing the phone over, I know I'm about to hear, because I know how Marv Levy sounds. And then he's like, hey, Marcellus, how are you? I was like, so, and I just lost it. I don't know. I probably made Marv want to bench me already. But I was just so excited, man. And you fast forward, you get to see those guys in real life, and they're real lockers, and they're real dudes, and they shake your hand, and they invite you over, and they become your real friends, man. So it's just an out-of-body experience. You're living a real dream.
I think there's a story in there about Bruce Smith and his shoes, which we'll get to. But before then, so this is a quote from your book. You said a lot of the other first-year players were pissed that they ended up in Buffalo. Not the team. The team was great back then, but the city, they wanted a Miami, a Chicago, and Atlanta, anywhere but Buffalo. I have this debate with my friends all the time about location. I feel like in the NFL, it doesn't matter because every market is a big market in the NFL. NFL is king in the United States, and so you'll get publicity no matter what city you're in. But going to Buffalo, was there ever a part of you where you're like, oh man, it gets cold in the winter. There's a lot of snow. It's not the biggest city. The dating pool might not be the best, but you know what? We'll give it a shot.
I was still a young guy in his 20s, so I was buying into the hype. I I didn't even stop and think. I love what Thomas Sowell always says, that doesn't matter how smart you are if you don't stop and think. So sometimes you just think you're smart, but all you're doing is echoing what you already heard, and you didn't really think about it. So everyone says, oh, Buffalo sucks. And I was like, okay. So when I got there, I'm already looking for evidence that Buffalo sucks. And then, it's cool, it's fun. I get there in the, spring, and so it's not bad weather. Summer is nice. Then the fall comes, it's getting cold. Then the winter comes, and it's hell. And you're like, damn, it's a cold hell, right? Buffalo sucks. And then slowly but surely, I started to realize, Buffalo doesn't suck. And it helped my whole grand perspective in life. So I'll give it to you like this. I'm complaining like everybody else. Man, there are only 3 pretty girls at the club instead of 300 like in L.A. Miami got 3,000. You know what I mean? And Buffalo got 3. The same old stuff, right? Oh, we ain't got nowhere to eat. We only have 2 steakhouses. They have 20. They have 200. It was the same thing. And everywhere I would go, all I was noticing was really a quantity difference, not a quality difference. So coming back to Buffalo after my second year, then third year, I'm like, Buffalo doesn't suck. It just doesn't have as much, but it has everything, right? So I was like, oh, y'all keep sleeping on Buffalo if you want. Pretty girls everywhere. Niagara Falls, Toronto, if you want to go leave and get variety. Great restaurants everywhere. Not many, though. That's what people don't stop and think about. All you're saying in New York City is there are 1,000 of them on every block. That nice restaurant. All I'm saying in Buffalo, there's one. But how many times you going to eat? So what brought it all together was Nas's song. Nas had this song, All I Need Is One Mic. And that made me love and always appreciate my Buffalo experience afterwards. I was like, all you need is one mic. And everywhere you go, all you need is a mall. Well, back then you did. Now you need Amazon. But you needed a mall. You needed a restaurant. You needed like a bowling alley, some fun place, right? A club and a bar. What else are you doing in the city? So every time everybody was boo-booing and shitting on Buffalo, I was like, what are you talking about? We got all those things. But you ain't got this. I was like, we ain't got as much as that, but we got this. So I went from complaining to really appreciating Buffalo. Great fan base, obviously. And they had everything that we needed, just not a ton of it.
So you're getting used to the city. You're on the team now. You mentioned meeting some of the players, and you're like, oh my God, that's Bruce Smith. What was like your first, I think there was a story of you at your first practice, you're going up against Buffalo's left tackle, whose name is escaping me, but he pushes you like all the way into the bleachers pretty much. I mean, he owns you. Was that like your first, oh crap, the competition is different in the NFL?
Yeah, it was Reuben Brown and John Fina. And I tried to do one of my little collegiate moves, my little spin move, got hit in the chest. Rampart. They went over there and hit me with the defibrillator. I was like, and then they just kept driving me. And we were on the edge because a lot of times you do your pass rushing drills on the edge of the field. You let the offense, you let the quarterbacks and running backs, they get the real field. We get the corner. So we got the leftovers over there. We were close to the fence already. And then when they drove me, I stumbled. They driving, and the crowd started going, whoa, and they just kept going. Okay. And I'm a rookie too, so okay. So then I got stuck in the fence. And I'm like, really stuck in the fence. My jersey got caught, and they had to come. And, it felt like the trainers took 2 hours, and it only took 2 seconds to get me out. But it felt like really embarrassing. And what I learned from that was, you got to remember, I was the guy that was in Speedos. And I'm looking at these guys, and they're in their, 30, 31 years old, little bellies, built like fire hydrants, built like bathtubs. I'm looking like, and I'm a stud-looking dude, right? And six-pack and all that. I'm like, I'm going to have to translate that weight room to this craft. Because right now, I'm weight strong. They got man strength. They got man bones. They know the craft. And immediately, I altered how I looked at and applied my physics. I was like, you got to learn the techniques. You're going to have to learn the craft. You can't just say, I'm big, fast, strong. That's college. That's high school. That's Pop Warner. This the pros. Even that fat dude over there could wear you out because he knows what he's doing. So I had to apply all my natural gifts to actually the technique and the craft.
And who would you say was instrumental in learning those techniques from? What, I mean, you mentioned Bruce Smith. Was it Bruce? Was it somebody else on the team?
No, it wasn't Bruce. I tried with Bruce, and it wasn't like Bruce wasn't open with it and open to it. But Bruce could do things that no one could do, so there was no teaching you. It's like, I was like, what? Like, he could run laterally faster than you could going forward. Like, he would get in a hole, he'd see the hole and turn his hips and flip them and get in there, squeeze and go sideways faster than you were going straight ahead. And I remember seeing it 1,000 times. He could get off the ball. He taught me how to get off the ball faster. He told me to look at the bottom of the ball. Well, I used to look at the whole ball or the tip of the ball. He was like, nah, look at the bottom tip. I used to look at the top. And little stuff like that. But Bruce could just do anything. Phil Hansen was my guy. Phil Hansen knew he had some limitations, but guess what? He worked on everything, and he built himself up. So I looked at Phil and just learned a ton of technique. Him and Bryce Pop, if people remember that OG, that legend. So Bryce Pop and those guys, they just showed me so much. Bruce and I, we were in the lab a lot, but at the end of the day, Bruce was a sensei you couldn't follow. It was like, okay, whatever degree black belt that is, cute for you. Teach me something else. And it was great, man. They were all open to it, and they all respected that I had some game, which was hard to believe at times coming from Columbia, but game recognized game.
So you're learning from Bruce. Why you mentioned the story of stealing his shoes, which I thought was, as I was reading it, I was like, this is kind of weird. So I have to ask Marcellus about this when he comes on the pod. Why were you so obsessed with trying to steal Bruce Smith's shoes?
All right, so Bruce Smith had a commercial with Dennis Hopper, I guess, way back in like the late 80s, early 90s or something, probably early 90s. And I remember watching that commercial, like, damn, it was just dope. One, it was a defensive end starring in a commercial on top of, it was just a commercial. It was Nike, it was dope. And so I get to the NFL and I'm not used to this. And I'm walking by and I'm like, damn, Bruce Smith right there. And I see his locker. His locker was 2 lockers away from mine. Smith, 78, right? And I'm like, damn, that's Bruce's locker. And I look, I was like, damn, those are Bruce Smith shoes. And then I look, the whole back of it was just Nike boxes. And I look at my locker, and I ain't got no Nike boxes. So I'm like, all right, I get it. Then I go in the training room, and then you go in from the training room to the equipment room, and you're looking for stuff, and they're like, oh, here are your cleats, and here are your stuff, and you see your slot. I had like 1 or 2 pair of cleats. And Bruce had a wall. I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh, man, they give him that many cleats? And then I just got schooled. They were like, give him that many cleats. He gets whatever he wants from cleats. We got our catalog, this big old book of all Nike products. He can order whatever he wants in there, no matter how much, and they pay him. I was like, he get a check, anything in the catalog, and he got these walls of shoes. So I'm already gassed up. And now, so they come to me and they offer me a stipend. So I get a little money to go in that catalog and spend stuff. They ain't give me a check. They just said, here's like $10,000 worth of merchandise. And I was like, yes. And then I walked by Bruce's stuff. And I was like, Bruce ain't gonna miss one of these pair of shoes. He got 2,000 of them up here. So I said, I'm gonna take a pair. For me, growing up, make it full circle moment. I'm gonna take a pair and I put them in my locker. Fast forward, Thurman Thomas saw me steal them. Thurman told Bruce, and Bruce was not happy. But it was all in jest. I wasn't going to take them out the locker. I just wanted something. I know it was weird, and even when I say the story, I was like, damn, why you mess with that man still? You could have just asked him. But it felt better to say, I'm here, and I got yours, and I got it over here with mine. So I did something weird, and Bruce was mad at it. He was not happy that much.
Love it. So your time with Buffalo comes to an end. You had back surgery, I believe. Your first daughter was born. So a lot of stuff happening in Buffalo. Free agency comes along and you don't know where you're going. You had an agent at the time who was a good friend, and there's a bit of a history there down the road with the Chargers and all that. But what's it like going through free agency and just not knowing who, because at the time too, with your injuries, teams might have seen you as a bit risky just because of re-injury, but you always had that self-confidence in yourself, and the Chargers decided to take a leap of faith and sign you. But take us through like that free agency period and what it was like to sign with the Chargers back then while they were still in San Diego.
Yeah. So the general manager, the same guy that called me to draft me in Buffalo, John Butler, left to go to San Diego. When he left, I was his first call. I didn't know where I was going when free agency started. I illegally heard one team that was offering me before you could offer, so I was interested in that. It didn't come to fruition, obviously, but they threw out a big number, and they're like, tell Wiley we got him when free agency starts. Well, when it started, things changed. But I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I was going to get paid. There was a thing like, if you get 10 sacks or more as a defensive end, especially in your contract year, you're getting paid. Like, it was just that simple. And so that was the law, and I had 10 and a half sacks. That was the same year I had that back surgery. So I'm coming off of back surgery, and I get 10 and a half sacks. So teams are like, damn, that boy must be hella good. He didn't even have a back. He ain't even playing every game. Or he ain't even play full strength, and he got 10 and a half. And I kept getting better every game as the season progressed. So I knew I was going to get paid, and that was a crazy feeling because to have money that you don't have, you don't know what to do. You're like, don't buy that. Don't look at that. Don't go there, But like, there's going to be a day real soon. So that was fresh. The best part was, like anything, it just feels good that somebody wants you. Something out there wants you. Something respects what you do. You're pouring your whole soul into what you do. And for that to be respected, recognized, and rewarded. Simple as anybody else, anything else. A promotion at your job just feels good, right? So I knew that was coming. And when it happened, it was life-changing. I was able to come home and set up shop and hook up my family and set us on a different path than we ever been on. Change our generational curse or change the direction of my family and our legacy. So all that for getting 10 and a half sacks. I've done a lot in my life, but 10 and a half sacks did a lot more for me. So it was just an amazing experience. And I lived a dream for many, many months there.
And then I think you told the story of how, the Chargers offered you their first number and your agent was like, let's hold off, they'll come back. You were supposed to fly to Oakland, I believe, to go visit with them. And the Chargers kept calling back and kept increasing their number. And your agent was like, hold on, let's not sign anything yet. And I think it might have been 40 million was like the last number that they offered. And your agent was like, all right, this is it.
Yeah, it started off with 20 million. No, first of all, it started off, all right, Marcellus, it's nice to meet you. Here's our locker room. Here's our training room. Here's our meeting room. I was like, you think I came on a visit to see y'all rooms? I know they all nice. It's the NFL. Duh, I don't care the shape of it. What we talking about here? Get to it. You know what I mean? So what's the terms? And they didn't want to say it. They're we know you got a few other visits scheduled, so, we'll be in touch. Make sure you don't enjoy those visits, all right? But we'll be talking to your agent. I was like, I almost felt like, not shocked. I felt not disappointed. You know what I felt? A little embarrassed, and more importantly, I felt like let down, like they were like, didn't really believe in me. I was like, damn, you bring me all the way here for and didn't want to hang out. You know what I mean? So that was weird. But then I get to the airport. So I'm still in San Diego. And all of a sudden my agent called me and said, oh, where are you? I said, I'm about to get on the plane to go to Oakland. And he's like, all right, stay still. Then that happened. Then he called me right back. Okay, they offered. I was like, they offered? I was just there. What you mean they offered? What happened on the drive over to the airport to change their mind? He was like, stay still. They offered 20. I was like, 20 million? I was like, I said, let's go. You know, he was like, nope. He's like, I'll call you back. Stay still. Call me back in 1 minute or 2 minutes. He's like, all right, they're up to 24. I'm like, 24? And he kept doing that. 28, 29, 34, 35. I was like, if you don't take this money, dog, them food stamps are still in my face. And he was like, nope, we're not there yet. I'll tell you when we're there. Then he called me back and he was like, 40. I was like, and he's like, yeah, we taking 40. And then I'm not lying. He said 40. I said, you sure that's all we can get? He was like, if you don't get off this phone. I was like, yes. So then I end up going back to the facilities and never going to Oakland. So that's how that played out.
And your time in San Diego was, again, we'll get to the four corners, but you were in corner 3, which is going to make sense once we go through what the four corners are. But You're the star, right? You were brought in to be the star of the team. You're just coming off a great season. Expectations are high. But besides, your career with the Chargers on the field, there was one individual in particular that stood out to you in your time there, and that was Junior Seau. And he, tragically passed away. Later, it was found that he had CTE. You talk about him in the book quite extensively. What was it like to be around Junior Seau, and what kind of impact did he have and leave on your life?
Yeah, Junior was the star of the team. Even though I came in with all the fanfare and the big contract, it was Junior's team. I mean, that's Junior Seau. So the craziest thing about Junior, man, I've never met somebody who was the best player on the team, but had the attitude that they were the 53rd man on the team and may get cut any moment. Like he not only worked, acted, because there's a certain act to that kid too. Brock Purdy last year or something like, oh yes, thank you, coach. They're just so happy for any opportunity, right? Junior acted like that. But then he'd go out there and destroy. And you were like, and he was still the man in the field generals, like just so much. I was like, never met a superstar like that. Like, you don't have any of that pompous stuff to you. You don't have any of the arrogance. Nah, he was just a big open book, man, and big heart. So I love playing with him because he reminds me, like his legacy to me, the voice inside of me that has Junior Seau on it, always says, get off that horse. You ever think you high on that horse? You ever think you that fresh? Get off that horse. No reason you shouldn't be kind to people. No reason you shouldn't be good to people. No reason you shouldn't look for yes instead of no. Be a dream maker, not a dream killer. So I was like, man, Junior, I mean, it's always in me to just think of Junior Seau and think of positivity. So it was just great playing with him. I played with a lot of other great players and no slights to him, but nobody lit up the room like Junior Seau did.
So, kind of jumping around here, but speaking about CTE, you kind of towards the end of the book, you talk about the health effects of football. You document a lot in your own journey about taking certain painkillers and the amount that you had to take for your injuries and how that impacted you and still impacts you today. Concussions, CTE, it's a big topic in the NFL. It has been for years. You mentioned in the book, and I thought this was extremely powerful. You said if football isn't careful, it may end up like boxing. And I think what you meant with that is, boxing was everything in the 60s, 70s. It was a popular sport. But as people started to catch on to some of the health effects of boxing, started to drop off in popularity a little bit. And you're making that comparison with football to say, hey, we have to start spreading awareness about some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and kind of how players are treated and what happens 10, 15 years after they retire. So I'm curious, you had those thoughts. The book came out in 2018. Since 2018, has your opinion changed on football just as a sport and safety, or what's your current opinion with that?
Yeah, so much has changed just because football's changed. The way they treat the players, the way they protect the players, we see it, the player safety initiatives. So they've altered their course and made the game safer. Simple as that. So yeah, my opinion has changed because the game is safer. Now, football hurts every day, every way. Like, stop it. Like, what I mean? You're slowing down the car, but you still go, pow, you know what I mean? Whatever you want to do, you put more cushion in the car. You got better safety mechanisms. And football hurts every day, every way. That said, the line of people who want to play football is still around the whole globe. So there will be no shortage of football players. You only need 1,800 to have the league. But that said, I look at it like football is in a place right now where I could raise my hand and say I could be a proud parent of a son who played. There was a time where I wouldn't have raised my hand. I was like, dude, you sure? Anything else? Because I know how I feel. I know how you would feel. And my son plays flag football right now. When I was growing up, no one played flag football. It was like a stigma. Like, oh, you soft, you punk. I was like, really? Just because I don't want to get tackled and my fingers broken, you mean? So it's changed. It's 180 now. So that said, I'm in a position now where I'm just looking at him, and he doesn't want to play tackle football. He's like, I was like, why you don't want to play tackle football if you're in high school and, you're good? He's like, because I don't want anything to break, Daddy. I was like, smart little 8-year-old, right? But football is much safer, much different than it was when I played. Intentionally, too, not by accident, y'all. This is by intention. They don't glamorize the same things. And talking to the players, their practice schedule, I would still be playing if I played in these conditions. Not because I would be balling out of control, just we used to die in practice. Like, our practices were hell. They banned Oklahoma drill. They banned some of the stuff we did every day. So I was like, man, if I could have just played now instead of then. Birth certificate issues. So I think the game is here to stay, and it seems to still be growing just based on that course correction that they made.
So staying on the topic of health, a scary moment in your life came when you experienced kidney failure. And so this is obviously after your playing career. You're retired. You're at ESPN. You're working with Max Kellerman. And I doubt that when you first met Max, you thought that you were meeting someone that would save your life. But it ended up being that. So if you don't mind telling us the story of how Max Kellerman saved your life.
That's rich right there, because Max would love to hear that. Let me stop. He did. I mean, I felt like he did. Damn it. I was cramping up, full body cramps. Wasn't the first time I had it, but that was the first time I had renal failure. So my kidneys were failing me. And Max, I told everyone I was coming in to do the show that day. I just left the boxing gym, Wild Card, with Freddie Roach and those guys. So I'm driving in, and I'm full body lock. I can't even drive, but I'm getting there somehow, some way. I'm an ironing board. Like, the whole way I'm an ironing board. Just cramps from here. Your cheeks are cramping. Your neck is cramping. This vein is out here. Like, I'm just cramping everywhere. Then I get to work, and it gets worse because I'm trying to move and get out the car. And I called up there. I said, guys, I'm in the parking lot structure downstairs. I'm coming up. That's why I'm late. I'm just cramping. And then they were like, okay, no problem. All right, we'll see you up here soon, and hung up the phone. Now, it was on speaker because we were in a production meeting. And in that production meeting, everybody heard it. And Max was the only one in that meeting that was like, y'all, nobody think that's kind of weird? Marcellus can't walk up the stairs or get up here quick, or he's cramping full body. So he called me back, and he was like, dog, you all right? And I was like, yeah, I'm all right. He said, no, you're not. And then he came down, called Dr. Clapper, a friend who also worked at ESPN, told him the symptoms. He said, get that dude to the hospital immediately. Called an Uber. They called the paramedics and then the Uber. I was like, the Uber faster. It's so fast. So the Uber was right there. And I'm out. And went to the hospital to stay 3 days in the hospital. And they said, a few more minutes, a little later, you're on dialysis for life, bro. And I was like, oh, hell no. So Max saved me, man. It was love.
It's Max Kellerman saved your life.
Yeah.
Love it.
Now I got to go soon because we got a coach. We got championship today, so let's get it.
It's a big game. It's a big game. All right. I got one more question, and then we're going to end it the way that we end each one of these episodes.
Okay.
So we talked about this theory of four corners that you bring up in the book. After San Diego, you finish off your career with Dallas, which your dad was, I'm sure, super happy about, being a lifelong Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. And then you ended in Jacksonville, and you reflect back on your career, and you say that there are essentially four corners, and each player fits into one of these four corners. So quickly describe what those four corners are.
Yeah, you could fit in more than one corner. For me, it was like the first corner for me, and this is like a locker room, and I think this is what gives me perspective, and I think allowed me to just truly enjoy all experiences that came my way. First corner is, should you even be here, right? You know what I mean? And we know what it is, whether you're from Columbia or you're a guy who wasn't drafted or you've had some bad days at training camp. Should you even be here? So that's corner one. Corner two is, respect, man. You on the team, you're playing, maybe even starting, but hey, we ain't putting all this on you, but you part of this, you're a cog in the wheel. That's corner two. Corner 3 is you the dude. Like billboards, you on the tickets, and when you get your tickets, you see your face on it, and you're like, oh, man, they put me out there. Front page of the cover of the everything you see, magazines, like you that guy, you that dude, right? And then corner 4 is kind of like corner 1. Should you still be here? You hold on, huh? What time is it? Ain't it bedtime, old man? You know, so the beauty of my career is I touch all 4 corners. Now, ideally, you only touch corner 3. Like, you come in the dude, you lead the dude, right? But very rare you see that. Tom Brady didn't even do that. So the point is, I got a global perspective of the game of football, and they all were my boys, all were my friends. So I was never, when I was the man, I was still hanging with the guy who may not be there tomorrow. And then when I was the guy that they didn't think would be there tomorrow, I got to hang with the man, Bruce Smith, right? You know what I mean? So it was just crazy. So I wouldn't trade it for the world, even though obviously you raise your hand to be the big dog, top dog every day.
Marcellus, this has been an amazing episode. It has been a privilege to sit here and talk to you. We have a little tradition on this podcast. So at the end of every episode, I ask my guest for one piece of advice that they'd like to leave for the following guests. But the trick is you don't know who the next guest is going to be. So our last guest on the show was a man by the name of Dan Jansen. And Dan was an Olympic speed skater, won gold in 1994. Fantastic individual and obviously an Olympic athlete. And his advice for you was put yourself 25, 30 years into the future and ask yourself if you're being the best that you can be. And so what does that advice mean to you? And then what is the piece of advice that you'd like to leave for our next guest?
Yeah, I think he's trying to give me perspective. Kind of we were talking about how you live your life through the lens of your kids, how, you know, you kind of reverse engineer this thing. Put yourself forward and then see back, did you do all you could do? Because it's crazy. It's going to end, y'all. I don't care what y'all thinking and feeling right now. It's coming to an end. This game will hit 4 zeros on the scoreboard. And when that clock strikes 0, you just don't want any regrets, just like in ball. You just wins or losses, yeah, that's part of the game. Championships, right? Failure, cut, yeah. But did you give it your all? I mean, there's a satisfaction that comes from that no matter what outcome. So I totally feel what he's talking about. For me, I mean, be greater than your greatest excuse is my favorite advice right now. It's the flavor of the month. But my ultimate one, the one that really helped navigate me, life is a competition between you and yourself. I think we get more done more effectively, more efficiently, if we start to stay in our lane a little more and understand that we're all in different lanes and we're all on the same track, just doing it uniquely similar. I love uniquely similar. Like, I'm me, you, but come on, we both running track. We both living life. We're both trying to get this. We both want a family. We both want the same thing. Stop acting so crazy. We're not different like that. We're uniquely similar. So I love that, to run the race the best way, stay in your lane, you know, and run your race. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't be envious and jealous of people. Don't hate them just because they're different or they're in a different lane or they're doing something you deem as different. We're uniquely similar. So I run my race and I allow others to run theirs, but I know why. Because I know life is a competition between me and myself. Simple as that.
That is a beautiful way to end this episode. Marcellus, thank you so much for your time. All of Marcellus's links will be in the description. I highly suggest that you go check out his book, Never Shut Up. We joked around before we started recording. I think I read it in one sitting. Just a fantastic book, man, from start to finish, and it gives everyone a little more perspective into who Marcellus really is. And so, Marcellus, thanks again for your time today, and hopefully we'll stay in touch here. Oh, absolutely, man. You're the best, brother. I appreciate it so much, and thanks for all the love. And all you guys out there, keep supporting the channel, bro. Thank you. Until next time. All right.